Welcome to Constructive Conversations, where we dig into all things related to construction, design, real estate, and the clients behind the projects.
Each series will discuss different verticals from hospitality to industrial. By touching on a wide variety of topics, we hope to help you avoid the common pitfalls of project delivery and create a roadmap to success.
We're your hosts, Mike Bruno
and Shelby Gasek.
We hope you enjoy the episode. All right, so welcome to the first episode of Constructive Conversations. I'm Mike Bruno, along with my partner and co-host, Shelby Gasek. Shelby, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So it's kind of interesting. We're partners of a couple different businesses, and we've toyed around with this idea of launching a podcast of our own for quite some time. And I guess, for both of us, it's like tearing off the Band-Aid and kind of jumping into it. And when we, talked to our marketing team about it, one of our marketing teammates came up with the Constructive Conversations title, which I thought, was pretty cool, given the fact that, in my mind, one of the reasons why we want to launch this podcast and invite other business owners and clients and vendor partners on is to just continue to have conversations around construction and constructability and all facets of what we do. And I'm sure we're going to have some really cool conversations coming up. I'm pretty excited about it. Ironically enough, we haven't talked much about it, other than let's get one scheduled and get moving. So, with that said, what's your thoughts on it, and what you'd like to see from the podcast?
Yeah, I mean, I think the hopes and the intent are to connect with some interesting people in the industry, get some insight, into different verticals of construction, but also in the restaurant and hospitality sectors. Even in this moment, I'm thinking that it might be a little cathartic for you and I too, to talk about things in the industry and the daily struggles and challenges that we have to go through. So maybe this is in part going to be a little bit of our therapy session and voicing some of those things with others that have had similar experiences. But yeah, I mean, I think the ultimate goal is connecting, right, and talking about the industry and the exciting portions of it, the design process, opening a new business and operation, getting a space turned over, but also some of the things that you can maybe identify and mitigate and challenges along the way. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm definitely excited about it, and I know we have a long list of very fascinating individuals that we want to get on to talk to us in future episodes, ranging from, architects, restaurateurs, clients, brokers, engineers. So I hope that, all of our listeners and hopefully in the short term viewers, as we get into the shared universe podcast studio and we can put ourselves on video, it'll hopefully be entertaining to to some folks.
yeah, we'll see. Time will tell. But yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, as Stone Creek, we've been able to get exposure to a lot of different portions of the restaurant design and construction. Ranging from those clients and designers, to architects and engineers and operators. So I'm excited to have those diverse groups on and to talk about their individual experiences as they go to open up these different places. So
yeah, absolutely. So I guess before we jump into some other behind the scenes questions, let's go through a couple kind of intro questions. I know we have a list of questions for each other, but let's start with kind of our backgrounds and at a high level, kind of what got us into the construction business and what brought us to where we are today.
Sure. Yeah. I guess I'll start. I'll kick it off. But I've been involved in construction and kind of activity surrounding it for a long time, as long as I can remember. Growing up as a kid, I was often um, employed by friends and families for fixing gutters on houses or installing doors, and then moving to masonry and carpentry and other things, and ultimately went to school for architecture, and loved architecture through school. I mean, I love the process of design and thinking conceptually about what a space can be and how people experience it. And then once I left school, I kind of naturally gravitated back towards kind of the more tangible world of building and design, which is construction. I'm able to utilize some of the things I've learned, through school, and have intelligent conversations with designers and engineers. But at the end of the day, I really like seeing a space get built. That's pretty rewarding to me. And then, through my career in construction, it really spans a lot of different verticals, from high-end residential to high-tech manufacturing facilities, and everything in between, which is exciting. You get a lot of exposure to different people, different types of structures and organizations and client bases, and different types of architects and engineers. And the restaurant world is certainly an interesting one within itself, and probably one of the most challenging and diverse when it comes to the individuals that are involved. And sometimes there's really experienced groups that have been through the process before, know what to expect and challenges to anticipate. And then sometimes there's small business entrepreneurs that are maybe doing this for the first time, and we really need to kind of assist and help them through the process and try to anticipate those things that we've learned through the years. So.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. And my background is somewhat similar. Obviously, branched off, had a fork in the road and took a different track than you did. But yeah, similar thing growing up as a kid, with my dad, helping him finish the basement, learn electric, do the fence in the backyard and all those kind of things. Back in the day, going to the old school, channel hardware store and, Rickles back in the day when those were around. And then, did have a short stint in school studying architecture, but that's where the fork split for me. And I made a decision to go into the construction world, from a carpentry perspective. So carpenter by trade, and the path kind of twisted and turned through a variety of residential, commercial, back to residential, back to commercial. And I think for me personally, similarly to you, being able to stand back and be proud of changing the landscape, building buildings, building houses has always been a great feeling to have, and inspired me to continue, albeit the construction industry is difficult at times. Working with business owners and seeing their businesses come to fruition and then being able to operate out of it. And, similarly, just working with corporations and being part of, ground up construction projects and building buildings that may seem meaningless at first, but, someday they're going to have people in them and they're going to be running businesses and, creating, great things for, whatever industry they're in. Um, definitely, like I said, it's definitely somewhat of a challenging industry. A lot of moving parts and balls in the air at all times. With that said, what's the what do you find to be the biggest challenge, or list of challenges that we have in the construction industry and how it relates to producing projects?
Sure. I think one of the most crucial things is being able to adapt, right? And I'm sure that applies to a lot of different professions and career paths and industries. Um, but I think it's pretty important for us. In the construction world, we have to deal with or interact with a pretty diverse group of people, from guys performing the work on site, to clients that, may be the CEO of a large, US corporation. So, understanding each person's position and how to work with them to be successful is probably one of the most critical things to me. Um, yeah. So, I think that's important is being able to adapt to different personalities and mindsets, and being a solution based person to keep everybody moving forward. It's definitely an industry where there could be tension at times. People are getting upset, or, anxious and concerned about deadlines and budgets, and being the person to be able to, um, you know, reassure them and make sure that it's as smooth of a process as possible, I think is probably one of the most valuable things that you can bring to a project. So,
Yeah, definitely. And with that said, I know you and I have spoke about it many times that constructing buildings or renovating buildings, it can be stressful at times, and there's a lot of um, outside things that happen that are kind of out of our control, whether it's weather or shipping delays, manufacturing delays. And, one thing that we really talked about and made in part of our culture in the beginning was having a tremendous amount of communication with our clients, keeping it open at all times, but also having some of those harder discussions and conversations as things arise, right? So, an example, you have a deadline for a project, and then you're notified that there's going to be, a change in a manufactured product that now is going to show up 3 weeks late, which may impact the deadline. We don't want to have that conversation. Of course, having disappointing conversations or bringing up disappointing things, always makes for a, not so easy day or meeting to have. But, I think it's important for, builders and remodelers and GCs and everybody out there to just be honest, right? And communicate those delays, reset the expectations. And I think even if we rewind on that thought a little bit, I think we do, a pretty decent job. And of course, we're always a work in progress, and we're always striving to do better. But we do a decent job of outlining those expectations up front. And although we have schedules and we have a really good group of subcontractors and vendors, we're honest with clients up front and telling them that things happen. And the important thing is that when they do happen, we're going to be part of the solution, part of the conversation to get it rectified. And we're always going to be open and honest with them.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's as you said, it's I think most people's natural inclination is to avoid that conflict or the tough conversations. But it's pretty important that we address them and bring it up with the client and then work towards solving for it. Yeah, and sometimes those aren't even throughout the construction process. A lot of the time too, it's through the initial design, and then we get integrated into the project and have to help from the start to come up with value engineering solutions or alternates for items that might impact the client's expectation of schedule and budget. So trying to identify those through each given portion of the project from pre-construction to delivery is definitely a benefit. Yeah, so sometimes it's just better to meet things head on and be transparent, and making sure that you're continuously communicating, throughout the project's duration.
Sure. Yeah, and I know we also talk to our subcontractor partners and more so our teammates within Stone Creek to communicate to subcontractors and vendors and try to obtain that real information. I think there's, in my experience, nothing more frustrating than, hearing from a sub or a vendor that it's going to be tomorrow, it's tomorrow, it's tomorrow, and tomorrow doesn't come. And really, they know it's not tomorrow, but they want to, they don't want to have the hard conversation. So,
Yeah.
I know that, I've had many conversations with, some of our subs and vendors and just, telling them that it's okay to tell me something that I don't want to hear so that we could properly communicate it to the clients and the team. And again, find some type of solution to it.
Yeah.
Um,
I think we see that on the bidding process side too for the clients. I mean, just an example recently where, we were asked to put a proposal together for a restaurant, and we knew that the budget was going to be more than they expected, or ultimately what they wanted at the end of the day. But unfortunately, there's others out there, other general contractors and builders that are willing to, go in at that lower cost, knowing that it's going to be more, at project end, and they're going to be in a difficult situation with the client and fighting to collect, because they were not honest up front or willing to, honestly be dishonest about it, just to win the project. We thankfully declined that bid process because we knew that it would be a difficult situation, but not everybody does. So yeah, it can be tough.
yeah, and with that said, I think, inherently that's one of the issues within the industry, is that there are a lot of there are a lot of people in the industry rather that are less transparent, right? So to your point, they know going into a bid that they're leaving things out and they're going to try to capture it on change orders, or they're going to pacify the client up front, and tell them that their unrealistic budget is realistic, only then to, end up with a strained relationship between GC and client, GC and subcontractor, GC and township, GC and landlord. It really creates a pretty monumental, ripple effect, I think, through everybody that's involved in the project. Ultimately, then, drawing out the duration of the project, and, in some cases, it doesn't get completed and new people are brought in. So, there's really zero benefit to, at the end of the day, for clients to hire the GCs that, are the lowest bidder or don't have a very clear proposal, or are not transparent enough in the bidding process to identify things that may come up.
Yeah.
Um, so if we pivot a little bit, I have, I've had my own businesses for quite some time, and you have as well. And you always get that kind of, some of those comments, or you're like, well, you own the company, you're the boss, you can do what you want, you can, you're the guys that make all the money, you're doing this, you're doing that. But very few people ask what it's actually like to, run a business, own a business, be responsible for people's livelihoods and jobs, and, all of these different responsibilities. But, ask the question what it's really like, the day in the life of a construction business owner. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, one, look, we're lucky, right? Certainly, to have built the company we have, and continue to be successful and have a um, good group of employees and partners that work with us, and clients too. Uh, but it's fucking tough. Yeah, I mean, the day
Yes.
starts early, very early, especially in the construction industry, right? So we're getting phone calls, 6 in the morning, for activities that are happening on site, and kind of throughout the day, constantly fighting fires and trying to address different things, but also trying to stay on schedule and handle some of the, predetermined meetings, weekly meetings and client meetings, that we have. And you're never off clock, right? So you're constantly, um, answering phone calls, emails, and texts throughout the day and night, and making sure that things are running as smooth as possible. Um, whether it comes to employees and their coordination on what sites they need to be at, helping them solve for issues on their individual projects, or talking to the clients and trying to help them with their needs. Um, yeah, and to speak to the livelihood portion, that's stressful as well, right? I mean, it's not a light thing in any way to me that I have, um, a number of people, a group of people that rely on me to continue to keep this company fed, rely on you and I to keep the company fed,
Yep.
and projects in and work lined up and cash flow moving, so that, they can live enjoyable lives and go home to their families and not stress about, um, things, whether schedule based or financially. So it's not easy. Yeah, there's a lot of hats to wear and a lot of concerns to take on your shoulders.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about, that as I was going through the list of questions we put together, and it's kind of like a just a ping pong ball, in a box. Every week and month and day when we do our planning and our schedules, inevitably, things ricochet and change, at a minute's notice, and we have to be very adaptable to that. And very uh, conscious of the anxiety or stress or concerns or conversations that our clients and subcontractors want to have. And those are things that can't be planned. So, as business owners and partners, we plan as much as we can. But I feel like our lives and our day-to-day responsibilities are really all about adapting. I think without a skill set to be able to adapt and find solutions and remain, calm in a world of chaos, it just wouldn't be possible to be successful and to be able to, move the needle and move projects and motivate employees and subs and people to do the things that, they need to do to make the job successful. All along while, still maintaining, a focus on, our own lives, right? So, friends and family and kids and the things that we're personally responsible for, and not bringing, the work home and the stress home and, all the balls that we're juggling. But, um, I've always, taken the responsibility of having employees and having, clients to serve, you know, uh, to heart, and very, it's very important to me to, fulfill those obligations. And I think, there's a lot of business owners out there that, across all businesses, not just construction, but lose sight of that. And again, they don't have the conversations that are required with their employees or their clients or their people, or finding the right clients that, would be beneficial for their business and their employees. As you mentioned, the couple, the one project that we declined to involve ourselves in. We have to be very careful of that, just as clients want to vet the GCs and the different people that they're hiring. We want to make sure that the people that we're working for, also have a level of respect for what we're doing, and can appreciate the professionalism and the honesty and the communication that we're bringing to the table, because it really does impact every facet of the business. You
It's
know,
also for our employees, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's not like just you and I would be accepting a challenging project. We'd then be exposing, our people to what we know to be most likely a difficult situation. Yeah, I mean, we touched on it a little bit before about just staying level through different situations, but that translates also to the employees, right? That, I think a lot of the time we're a sounding board and we're problem solvers and we have to adapt. But I think in some ways our employees are also looking to, have discussions or conversations with us to also be reassured, right? And uh, relieve some of their stress that maybe they're feeling at the time, that it's going to be okay. We're going to come up with a solution. We're going to make things right. We'll keep moving forward. It's not the end of the world. So a lot of the time, and they do as well in different situations, but we're shouldering that burden, right? And then you bring that back to the home life too. Yeah, I think there's probably a fair amount of stress that you and I have to shoulder at times, and while constantly maintaining a pretty even keel, and that's not always easy, right?
Yeah.
But it's what we've signed up for, and we're doing okay so far. Haven't had a nervous breakdown yet, but close at times.
Yep.
Um, yeah, so it's tough, but I wouldn't trade it for anything else. I mean, yeah, it's definitely something I like to do. I like to be involved in every aspect of our company and our projects. And yeah, I don't know, keep it going.
Yeah, and I guess that's one of the things that I mean we feel is unique to our business and our partnership and how we operate the company. Not to say that there's not other, GC builders out there that aren't doing the same thing, but we like being involved, in many facets of the business, if not all. But not from a micromanaging perspective, but just having a pulse on the flow of the projects and the relationships and employee relationships, client relationships. I feel that that's for me, it's what makes, kind of everything feel right. Um, I don't I can't picture myself doing one portion of the job and being out of touch with everything else.
Yeah,
And I guess that comes with obviously being an entrepreneur, and there's very few entrepreneurs that, don't wear the proverbial thousand hats or whatever it is.
yeah.
But
Well, it's taken me years to be able to trust others to execute on our behalf, right? So that's been challenging for me personally at times because, as you suggested, I mean, we like to be involved in every portion of the project. So it's taken me some time to really kind of pass off that control and responsibility to others. So that's something I'm still working on, but that's just the pride in what we do, right? And I want to make sure that the clients are happy with the process and the product that we're delivering at the end of the day. And luckily, we've been able to build out a team that we can trust with that delivery and with the communication for the most part. So yeah,
yeah, and I think that's pretty important too. You've mentioned team a couple times, and we've talked about, our employees and who we have on the team, and it is hard to delegate, especially when um, you know, the term the shit flows downhill, it also flows uphill a lot, right? So we're constantly getting, smattered with it if things aren't going right. And as a team, we have to stand behind our employees, we have to rely on them. We stand behind their decisions and their ability to, delegate themselves and to make the decisions on their own that are right for the company. And we're fortunate to have, a good team that we've, I guess, uh, maybe relinquished, that too is a little bit weird of a term because it's not like we're giving them a gift, but, just personally, what you said and for myself, it takes that trust in the team to be able to give those things up.
yeah,
And also I think it's, a level of leadership maturity, to just understand that people are going to make mistakes, right? I mean, you and I make mistakes, everybody makes mistakes. But it's learning from the mistakes, creating efficiencies behind them, understanding what happened, how to do it better, um, as a team. So when one of our teammates does something, we all have to, we rise as a team, we fall as a team, and it's kind of an ebb and flow thing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think we've been pretty decent at preventing the shit from rolling downhill, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's our responsibility to step in front of the issues that some of our team members are facing at times and take the brunt of that. I mean, to go back to the stress portion of it or difficult situations. I'd rather have them know that I'm on their side and I have their back and kind of protect our teammates from those certain situations. Because I think other, it's certainly not speaking for everybody, but I see that a lot at other companies, other, subcontractors and general contractors, where that owner or the higher up is just pushing the issue to the person below them and letting them take on the burden of the stress and the challenges of getting something resolved. And that's not how we operate. It's not how I
Yeah.
operate, and I don't think it would be fair, right? So I think that's one of the most important things we can do as the owners of Stone Creek is um, to let our team members know that we're in the trenches with them, and we're not going to hang them out to dry in a crappy situation, and potentially get laid into or yelled at or anything like that. So yeah, that's just how we do it, and others might do it differently, but it's important to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we were talking about, you know, a little bit of work-life balance and things like that, I know that when we started this, company years and
I
years
had,
ago,
I had one kid.
yeah, when you had one kid, not only were things simpler, but we wanted to you know build a business and a culture around family and being able to do the things that are that come up, right? And that are kind of required and um all that stuff. And I know that you know we were a couple years apart, so we're at different stages. My kids are older than yours, so I'm less in the day-to-day grind of it. I know that when I made a lot of mistakes, bringing a lot of the stress home, and talking to my wife about certain things and expecting her to respond in a certain way. um, and I realized that after some time of doing that, and also talking to some business coaches and some other people, that um, you know, me bringing that stuff home and expecting a certain type of response, from my wife, was actually just not possible, and very, you know, like it was just not the right thing for me to do, right? It was very self-serving, because she herself was stressed, and the kids and work, and bouncing around and doing all those things. At a certain point I realized that the response that I wanted from her was kind of like a I guess consoling type of response of, yeah, your day sucked and you had to deal with this person or that person, and deal with this stress, when in reality me bringing that stress to her was only making her nervous for me
Yeah.
and creating more stress for her. So definitely made those mistakes earlier on in my career, and had to work hard at changing that thought process, and not thinking that I was allowed to bring it home. Um, and since I changed that years and years ago, I don't have those conversations. So
Yeah.
if there's exciting stuff going on, great. I'll share the exciting news, and she rolls her eyes about the ideas and all the things that I brought to the table over the years. If you have a bad day, I'll say, yeah, it wasn't so good, stressed out, or, something went sideways, but we solved for it and everything's on the right track now. Um, but what's your take on that, and or, how you're managing, the work-life balance with, three small kids and all the jostling and running around that you're doing?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely hectic. And I think I've probably dealt with it in a slightly different way than you were. I didn't necessarily want to discuss it when I got home, right? The different issues and challenges that I was encountering at work. Um, I've historically bottled things up,
Yep.
which is not great either. But so regardless of me wanting to have a discussion about it, it affected my mood. So I may have been more quiet when I was home, or just generally more agitated. Um, and I'm certainly learning what you've already gone through in terms of sharing the more exciting things and just trying to really let go of the other issues. Because at the end of the day, the the home life balance is the most important thing, right? And we continue to stress that to our team members and employees, and um, it really should be, right? I mean,
Yep.
it doesn't. Although it's all critical for the clients and everybody involved in the project delivery process that things are going well and getting resolved, there's nothing more important than your family. Because if you don't have a good structure at home, it's all irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of what that structure is. So yeah, it's challenging, and we've gone through some difficult things over the last year in terms of some projects that weren't easy. And yeah, I think I need to continue to work on how to not bring that home, whether I'm talking about it or not, or it's just transposed through my mood. But just trying to continually evolve and grow and deal with it. And as you said, I mean, they're dealing with things at the house that are equally as stressful, right?
Yep.
So they don't want to, or may not even have the capacity to take on, what we've had to deal with too. And I certainly get that, and what we're doing is not greater than what others are doing. So it's just something to keep in mind, and yeah, continue to work on. So
Yeah, and I think it's important, just as we discuss all the other things about, the business and, all the other facets of things, these kinds of things are real, right? I mean, they're real for us. They're real for, the subcontractors we use and the PMs that work for the subcontractors we use. And, there's so many, different personal lives and personal things going on and business things going on with so many different people. And I definitely, over the years have learned to appreciate that, people have bad days. And if they have a bad day and I'm having a good day, you have to realize that, take a step back, be respectful, appreciate the relationship, figure out how to reset, do whatever is necessary to get to the next day and to keep things progressing. Um, but it is, I mean, I know every business is a people business, but, it's, construction is definitely a huge people business, right? I mean, we use technology to get things done, but we're not a technology business. It's very people centric, labor centric, um, and with that said, mindset and relationships and personalities are a huge part of what we do.
no, absolutely, definitely, yeah. I think it's important to try to connect with people at different times. From guys on site to clients, and I think that is appreciated by people, right? And I think you and I have done that at times with different people that we work with, because, as you said, everybody's got a personal life and things that they're going through, whether good or bad, and acknowledging that at times, I think builds a deeper connection and relationship with those people, and it makes ultimately us working with them and together more successful.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that 1,000%.
Yeah.
So pivoting from all the sappy stuff, part of what we wanted to do with Constructive Conversations is launch several different series of podcasts around certain verticals or certain topics. I know we tossed a bunch around, but we decided to start with restaurant construction. Um, recently, well, over the last several years, we've done some pretty awesome restaurant spaces. Um, and we're excited to start the series off. You know, or start a series off, I should say, surrounded around restaurant construction and, kind of the people that are involved from, inviting some chef owners on the podcast, specialized designers, architects that specialize in restaurants, engineers, other folks that own other businesses, brokers or manufacturers and other vendors that support the restaurant industry. So with that said, um, what excites you or doesn't excite you about building restaurants?
I mean, let's start with the exciting, I guess. To me, it's the design, right? Going to school for architecture and kind of having some of that background, it's exciting to be in some ways, and sometimes we're not, but involved in the process and pre-construction and thinking about different material selections and design. Um, yeah, that's just fun, right? We don't always get to do that. Sometimes we're building expensive white boxes where everything, for the most part, is hidden behind the walls or above the ceiling and floors. So it's nice to be a part of something that has a little bit more of an aesthetic element to it. And a lot of the time, we got to work with those designers to figure out the constructability or different ways to get something built or material selections because durability needs to be considered or how it interacts in the space that it's in. Um, yeah, so that can be fun and challenging all at the same time. So yeah, I definitely enjoy doing that. Um, the thing I don't enjoy, I guess, it depends, but sometimes we're dealing with smaller entrepreneurs and business owners, and um, rightfully so. Budget is an extreme concern, and they're less understanding of changes that we encounter along the way, or maybe um, aspects of the design process that were altered and ultimately increased price. Um, and it can be, confrontational. Um, so luckily, I think we're built to suit those situations, but yeah, that can be uncomfortable at times, right? And then you're also trying to meet the deadlines of the project, and they might be targeting certain dates to open to coincide with holidays or events that may be taking place. And you got to mitigate, manufacturer delays or issues with subcontractors that are dragging things out. Um, so the schedule can be difficult at times too, but it's all a part of the process. So you take the good with the bad, and you roll with it, and it's all worth it at the end of the day. So,
Yep.
how about you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, similar. I mean, the design aspects of it, were certainly interesting. A couple projects that we were on that we were part of the pre-con. I mean, it's nice to see the variety of design ideas, and working through that whole entire process to arrive at a final design. Looking at the 3D renderings and the plan view, and then to the shop drawings and seeing, massive millwork packages and all of these, really cool design features come to life, is definitely exciting. More exciting than, obviously just throwing up metal studs, drywall, and acoustical ceilings for offices. Not that we don't like to build offices, but there's certainly a little bit of excitement around doing unique design features and some unique construction. I guess out of the dozen or so restaurants that we've built over the last several years, I don't think one of them was even remotely the same, right? And all had their own unique design features. Um, and in terms of the most difficult part of restaurant construction is certainly, just all the buttons to push to get it open. It is a very complex um, uh, business to open. I mean, there's so many moving parts, so many vendors that get bolted on at the end, whether it's the Ansel system or, dishwasher folks and health department and, just bringing all these people together at the end to get across the finish line, is definitely challenging. And then similar, to what you mentioned, you know, there's some restaurateurs that the budget is of major concern, and design changes happen because of budget constraints, and things happen on the fly, and there's new ideas that come up, and there's a constant adaptation to what their vision is. There's a lot of restaurateurs out there that are, extremely artistic, and they have they really have a concept in their mind that maybe isn't fully, put on paper, and things kind of evolve and change. So that becomes difficult, but it's also really cool and exciting because that's where it pushes the design envelope and you really get some cool stuff. Um, so, I think I wouldn't necessarily pick one type of restaurateur over the other. Obviously, we have clients that are more corporate oriented, where it's cut and dry, a little bit more black and white. Of course, you're still dealing with all of the, infrastructure and MEP and construction that's pretty intense at times, depending on what type of building we're working in, and other infrastructure that's there that we need to adapt to or connect to. But then, the other side, the smaller restaurateurs do some really cool, exciting stuff. Um, so it's
Yeah.
kind of interesting on both sides of it.
Yeah, and I guess to touch on it for a second. I mean, although there may be other challenges associated with the smaller operators, I think that also gives an opportunity for more input at times, right? They're more
Yeah,
willing to have you be a part of the process and the design, and they're often asking for, more cost-effective ways to accomplish something, and that's where we can kind of flex our expertise and different ideas and deliver them, the same aesthetic or something even potentially more interesting at a better cost. So yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons on the different types of clients in the industry, but all offering opportunities for different situations, and it makes it interesting. So
yeah, yeah. And I thought of something when you mentioned the timeline and the timing. It would be interesting for us to kind of do a best practices for restaurant construction duration scheduling, and or identify kind of those ideal opening dates as opposed to others. I know that we have some restaurateurs that, try to push to get open for right after the summer, right before the holiday rush. Then you have others that, don't necessarily want to deal with the holiday rush, and they're okay, doing an early spring, or, an after the new year opening. But, it seems like both sides, or in both camps, if you will, kind of have like these gray dates, if you will, that they don't necessarily prefer to open during those times. But it would be cool to do you know, a little white paper on it and get some other industry input from some of the, even some of the guests that we plan on having on.
yeah,
Um,
no, absolutely. Yeah, I
that's
think it'd
cool.
be interesting to learn a little bit more about it. I mean, my generic view is it's probably not in between January and March, relatively
Yeah,
slow time after the holidays. And then summer can be difficult as well because people are traveling and, going down to the beach and stuff. So,
yeah,
but yeah, it'd be interesting to hear what some of these operators have to say about it.
yeah, true. So I think, I definitely had a good time talking through some of these things. There's a lot of weeks that go by that you and I even don't get a chance to talk too much. So yeah, we can definitely use this as our touch base session and our therapy session. But I'm definitely excited as we start lining up future episodes, and we're gonna have some exciting guests on, and digging into to their brains a little bit, the world of being a chef and a restaurateur and an operator, and similarly with designers, and then the technical aspects of the engineering and the systems that are required. Um, so yeah,
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
thoroughly enjoyed it, and thank everybody for listening.
Yeah. Hopefully everyone listening enjoyed it too, but we'll see.
All
No,
right.
I'm excited to see where this goes, and the
I'm glad you
diverse
did.
group of people we'll talk to. So.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks for listening to Constructive Conversations. Please subscribe and follow us on your favorite podcast platform.
Follow us on social media and visit our website at constructiveconversationspodcast.com.